Hey, this is Gavin with Hero Looking for Group, and the question I am asking is whether or not I should get vaccinated. If I were governor, what would I do in relation to vaccines? And how should we view people who choose not to get vaccinated? So I'll start with I am not vaccinated. That's what I'll start off with. And, I was actually, before I went to bed, I was thinking, it'd be good to hear about a story of someone, or if I were to die because I wasn't vaccinated, at least I would be a story for the world or for the community. And that's what I'm looking for, right? What are the stories of the people who die? And so what I wanted to point you at is, I woke up and I don't pay attention to social media, so that'll come up later. But this is the story. So my wife pays attention to social media, and she pointed me at this story. And obviously, my wife and I, we don't want to die, but we're not scared of death. But so she pointed me at this story: unvaccinated father of 3 dies of COVID. And it says Josh Tidmore thought he was low risk. They pay attention to their social media feeds. I don't do that. I also don't pay attention to the news, and this is because they do the idolatry. They aren't interested in the best outcome for all people on earth. They are not interested in peace on earth. They are actually interested in making money, gaining power, gaining influence, and getting their way. They are self-serving, and self-serving in their own sense of like at individual level and in their own ideology. And that's what people on social media and people in the news are doing. That's my analysis after years, and that's why I don't participate. But the key here, one thing that stands out, is the mistake that was made. On July 20th, Josh came home from work with a slight cough, initially thought to be sinus trouble. Well, he came home from work. So they thought they were low risk, but they were going to work. So there was a mistake there. And the reason I point that out is because I am a remote worker, and we do homeschool, and we are introverted, and we don't enjoy going out into public places. I've not enjoyed that ever. The only reason I did it was to practice, dealing with my personality, so that I can, get stronger and get better in case, I could be a leader one day. I want to be able to get out in crowds. So this whole idea of avoiding crowds is actually attractive to me and people like me. This is one thing you should realize, is there are people who are living an isolated life who are low risk at being a vector for this thing. So keep that in mind. And so Josh made a mistake. He went to work. And I'm not completely isolated, I'll put it that way, but I am trying to maintain my distance. I do carry a mask with me, and I will use it. Like if I've gone into the grocery store a couple times in the last month, and I'll wear my mask, and I avoid being around people. But usually we pick up our groceries. So there is a lifestyle which is conducive for people who don't want to spread the virus and don't care about being in a lockdown state at an individual level, making those kinds of decisions. So that's the first thing I saw. But Josh died, and that's a sad story. Obviously it's always sad when people die. Maybe it wasn't sad when Hitler died, but you get my point. So I noticed this little ad that Charles Barkley, there's this quoted text there, idiots. And so I'm taking a shower and I'm wondering if I'm an idiot. And the thing is about this title, it says the word lockdowns. And so the question is, well, when should there be lockdowns? And so the thought I had is that as governor of Alabama, I could potentially say only people who have been vaccinated can go into these publicly owned properties, like schools. Because you might notice that the spike in cases is correlating with children going back to schools. These are great vectors for the virus, and so that could be a good rule, right? As a governor, I think you are in your rights to make up this rule to say that the state-owned property, and at the federal level, the president and the federal government can say the federal-owned property, that if you want to be on these properties, you have to follow these rules. So all the other places, I think that's up to the owners of the property on the rules they would enforce, like if they're going to check your card to see if you're vaccinated. So in this title, and you can't trust titles. I realize titles are clickbait. I mean, it's stuck in my mind. It did its job. I haven't read this article, and I haven't listened to anything that Charles Barkley has said. And I know that Charles Barkley, he tends to be a pretty smart guy. And this isn't like a dumb position in general, but I just want to dive deeper into the position of lockdowns and what the government should do. Like, what are the right way to do lockdowns? And this is going to be different for each city. So large cities with a higher population density have an area that is more conducive for the spread of the virus. So if you're in a large city, I would expect to see rules that are more stringent than if you're in a small city. That's what I would expect. And it's just dependent on how dense your population is. So, yeah, that stuck out. And then I want to finish up with a definition. A stupid person, a person of low intelligence. Ignorant person. So, yeah. I had thought that the word idiot had something to do with being ignorant of politics, which I am ignorant of politics. I'm not ignorant of science and physics and many things, but I intentionally ignore politics because these people are not interested in my well-being. Now, you could argue they are interested in their well-being, and you could believe that something like getting vaccinated would be in my interest, in my well-being, but I would counter that living a life of fear causes you to be in a state of mind which is a sacrifice of your well-being, right? So well-being isn't something that can be defined and dictated for all people, like someone like Sam Harris might attempt to do, and he's confused. Let's see. So let's go back. This guy could be governor of Alabama one day. What is an ignorant person? Well, there are people who are able to think better than other people. Charles Barkley, he can think better than a lot of other people. He's a smart man. There are people who can think a lot better than him. And so it would be interesting to have a conversation with Charles Barkley about the nuances of the situation. I wonder how he would feel about my thoughts about, if you were governor, that you could create rules for all state-owned property. And if I were governor, I would even, I would like to be able to encourage a level of autonomy at local levels for the rules. But I would definitely be interested in trying to stop the spread of the virus. And I think the spread of this virus is largely due to children going back to school. And I understand that some people don't have the privilege to be able to do homeschool. And some people don't have the privilege of being able to work from home. So I understand. And I'm not against getting vaccinated. And I'll end it with this idea that I saw someone riding their motorcycle going really fast, not wearing a helmet yesterday. And when this virus first started, I remember my friend, I like to call him my friend, but he doesn't behave like my friend at this point in time. And all he would have to do is call me, and I'd like to think we could meet up and be friends. But he was comparing. I know that he brought up, trying to wear a mask. He basically doing these precautions about safety. And I had brought up a counterpoint, which he ignored, was, people can choose not to wear a seatbelt. People can choose to wear a seatbelt. People can choose, you could actually wear a helmet when you're driving a car. You could wear a 5-point restraint harness. So there's these different levels of protection that you can choose. You can go beyond, what the law says. And some people, there's this trade-off between freedom and safety. The counterpoint to these kinds of ideas is that your decisions do have an impact on other people's lives. And then my counterpoint to that is each individual can take on personal responsibility in order to avoid contracting, or spreading the virus. So there's something missing in our world where we coddle everyone. We don't want to allow people to suffer. We are scared of death. And I do not encourage people being scared of death. I encourage people loving life. And I see that people are controlled because of their fear. That's what I see. And so, I can see someone who's scared or angry saying something like, unvaccinated are idiots, or unvaccinated idiots are to blame for lockdowns. But I can understand that. But if you are rational, you can see that the blame goes all the way back to the starting of this country, when people decided that they could create rules for large groups of people and then punish you for breaking a rule, even though you aren't directly harming anyone. So the blame goes all the way back, and to say something like this is just an acceptance that the country and the way we do our justice system and the rules that are in place are good, and that there isn't a better way, and that the founders couldn't have done a better way. And even if the founders couldn't have done a better way, perhaps there is a better way available to us today, where we shouldn't be creating rules for all individuals. Like, I don't believe we should be creating a rule that basically says, every business has to shut down their doors. Like, that is a mistake. It's a mistake because it is coercive force of your view on other people's views, right? Now, the counter argument is that when you open a business and you allow unvaccinated people and people who don't wear masks to come in, or say it's not a business, let's say it's a church. Church is a good example because people who go to church tend to believe there is a life after this one, and so they have a view. And then when they behave in that way, they are increasing the chances of people with different views of contracting a virus and dying. And so maybe it's the atheist who believes this is the only life we have. And so indirectly, some atheist dies because some religious person behaves in an irresponsible way from the point of view of the atheist. So it is a challenging situation. My recommendation would be that the atheist should behave in ways that allow them to avoid contracting the virus and giving the virus. And you try to do that. And if you do it well, you will not be a vector. So I recommend personal responsibility instead of expecting other people to change the way they behave. It's the only path to peace. This getting angry at other people for not doing what you think they should be doing, it is not the path to peace. Especially when they are not causing you direct harm. So, this is like starting a fire out in the woods in the middle of a drought. It's like, it's not smart, but who are you to tell me that I can't do it safely? Right? I'll end there.